off, and we're going to go in 3, 2. Hi, welcome to G3. I was just taking a deep breath. Today is May 21st, and I believe this might be, someone will correct me, is this episode number 44? 44?
Sounds about right.
I think it's about right. My name is Tina Chase Gilmore. Welcome to G3. We're the ladies who talk tech, little trash, little trivia. How's that? How's that sound,
I love
girls?
that.
Okay. In my upper left, we've got my co-host today, Christy Wells. Hi, Christy, from San Francisco, from her offices at Ancestry.com.
Hello, hello.
All right. Hallie Suit Tucker, all the way from Boston. I hear it's getting warmer.
It's pretty cold, actually, but it is getting warmer. It's always getting warmer here because it's so friggin' cold all the time. We had to bring our plants in. They could frost last night and tomorrow.
Wasn't it warm there a few days ago?
Yeah, for about 5 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? It's cold here too, so you know.
Ah.
And we missed Hallie last week. She had a little mishap
Spill.
with her knee, and she's on the mend though.
I'm better. I'm getting better.
Okay. From the Zito offices, is that right, Francine?
Yes.
Francine Hardaway. Coming to us from San Francisco. She's usually coming to us from Arizona, but every once in a while she is in San Francisco. Hi, Francine.
Well, hello, everybody.
Okay, I hope we get Francine a little bit louder, Steve, because I can not hear her that well. Okay, and in my lower right, just fresh off of her workout, with her
Yes, and I'm wearing blue tie-dye in honor of David Letterman.
Oh, we'll get to that really soon. Is Mary Hodder? Hi, Mary. And
Hello.
why is tie-dye in for David Letterman? What's the relationship?
Because he always
so
wears
old.
something wacky, or he used to on the early shows.
On the early shows, yeah.
It's
The
'cause he's so old.
wackiest he gets now is light gray socks, I think. So, okay. Well,
I saw him once on a plane wearing yellow socks.
you saw him
He
on a
was in
plane?
first class.
Really? I hope so.
People in first class get to wear any color socks they want. The rest of us, we wear black trouser socks and try to look inconspicuous.
There you go.
We people in the vanishing middle class. Never mind.
So, Letterman did his last show last night after 33 years, I think.
35. He
30
started in 1980, March
33.
1980.
It's 33.
Really?
33. Yeah, it wasn't 1980. No.
Oh, maybe the first show that he messed up.
It could have been
was,
it could have been the morning show, and then I think he was on contract for a while, and then he started Late Night with David Letterman. Yeah, it's been a good long time. It's been a good long run.
I have a perfect record. I have never seen one David Letterman show.
Oh my God! Oh my God! You're kidding!
I am not kidding. I could care less.
Oh
I don't like him either much.
Oh gosh.
And I'm really, really sick of as he said, save some of this for my funeral. It's been like nonstop. Oh my God, Letterman, everything. And it's like it's got some weird psychology behind it. It's some sort of white guys celebrating when they were young and sexy.
Totally, aging white guys.
It's got some weird shit going on around it. Sorry.
Oh no!
Exactly.
Yeah. See,
I
it
love
isn't
David
so.
Letterman. He's totally
What's
sexist,
wrong
but he's
with
awesome.
you people? Okay,
Aging white guys.
Christy, help me out here. Are you a Letterman fan?
I like Letterman. I mean, I've seen a handful of his shows, but I wouldn't call myself a huge fan. But it's interesting, all the sexist comments coming up because of, some of the storylines have followed him. But they, this week, have done a lot of storylines that feature the women behind David Letterman, the people that, like, the founding writers of the show, a lot of the women that work for him, and they all adore him.
Yes.
Oh.
And Mary, Letterman hater or Letterman lover?
Love Letterman. I watched the very first show.
Yes.
In junior high.
Junior high. Really?
See, I think that.
Are you
And then
that
high
happened.
school, and then college. And then after college, I was busy, and so then I would only watch if Cher was on and she was going to call him an asshole, or Madonna was on and she was going to call him an asshole,
There
or
you go.
Susan Sarandon was on and she was going to infer that he was an asshole.
Infer.
Imply. Yeah, right.
I like his attitude. It's like, I'm just like so smart and I'm smug. Ready? East Coast, New York. I'm so smart. You're an idiot kind of attitude. Of course, it's my attitude, but
wait, he's got a lot of very self-deprecating humor, which is
lately maybe.
sort of into what's that?
Maybe lately, but in the beginning, he's like, you're so, he has just like everybody's such an ass all around me. I don't know. I can put up with them feeling for me, but Mary
Can't the
will
man
change
grow?
her
Can't
mind
he
too.
grow into like he was a very human person. He took us through a number of crises that were, he showed a
didn't
lot
take
of
me
emotion.
anywhere.
What?
He wasn't taking me through crises. Thanks.
Well, I guess not. That's interesting. I mean, it's interesting that maybe he's less of a woman's comedian, or or some
Are
people
you
just don't
kidding?
get
We
comedy.
went
I
around
don't
junior
know.
high, all the girls and all the boys, and then high school, and then college, basically making up lines that were David Letterman like and saying them to all of our friends. I mean, we weren't repeating what he said. We were making up new lines that were David Letterman-esque.
Where
and,
was this?
I mean, we
Yeah.
loved
What
him.
high school? Where were you for high school?
In high school, I was in Turlock in the Central Valley. In junior high, I was in Turlock in the Central Valley. In fact, I just reconnected with my 6th grade core teacher from junior high a few days ago on Facebook. And then in college, I was in New York. I tried to get tickets many times and
was
failed.
that I was in Arizona. The whole time David Letterman was on, I lived in Arizona, and I had kids, and I ran, and I woke up at 5 o'clock in the morning.
Exactly.
So I never stayed up that late.
That's right. It's an early people's non-show.
Right.
I was asleep or busy.
Well,
none
there
of you
have
watch
been
Jimmy
things called
Fallon?
VCRs for quite a long time. And
It's all about the daily shit that happened that day. Why would I watch it later? Get it?
Yeah.
But
not my
back in the
thing.
day, back in 1983. So here's what happened. We were in Macy's in Modesto, and the sales guy said, "You can buy this VCR was priced at like $1,300, but we'll sell you 2 for $1,500 total." And so we rushed home. We contacted our friends, the Magnolias, who lived around the corner, who I happened to be having dinner with on Saturday night in San Francisco. And they bought the other one. And we both have VCRs, and we would tape David Letterman because we had to go to bed earlier
Thank
than,
you. Okay, thank you.
11:30.
There are priorities.
We would watch it the next day, and oh my God, we loved it.
Same amount of fun. Same amount of fun the next day. Okay.
Yes, totally. Same amount of fun. Everyone loved it. It was awesome. And also the beginning of MTV. We were watching like music videos and David Letterman.
I watched MTV, but I wasn't watching Letterman. And do you think he's East Coast, like I say? I think he's very East Coast.
No.
Kinda.
I
sort of in an Indiana way.
I think he's. Yeah, and I think he's got a judicious amount of California vibe in him too. I mean, he did live out here for quite a while, and he did a lot of stand-up out here.
Yes.
What's that?
It was
always taped in New York.
But he's a dorky. Like, I would never consider him an East Coaster. I think he's got too much goofiness
Midwestern
in him that comes out, and I think that he's definitely more Midwest with a little side dish of West Coast.
That's why I never watched him. He wasn't snarky enough, and he wasn't edgy enough.
Get it? I get it. Well, meanwhile, did we also have to hear? It was like, "Don't we love Sexist Men Week" of endless Mad Men last episode. Oh, I'm gonna kill myself if I don't see it. And then Letterman, I'm like, enough. Enough. It was the whole thing.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
Okay.
Well, wait. I have
era,
to back
though.
up
That's
to my.
what this week showed us. It's a dying era because I'm going to switch us back to tech because Amazon finally put a woman.
Wait a minute. You're not going to switch us back to tech. Wait a second. I'll switch us back to tech in a second. Boom. Okay, just a minute.
She put her hand over my face.
I know. I haven't seen her do this. This is scary.
I'm blocking. This is the block and tackle. Okay. anyway,
talk
I did want to just say farewell. I love David Letterman. I watched his first show. I watched his last show, and I watched damn near every show in between. And it was definitely a ritual for me. He was.
You watch him at night.
What?
Late at night.
Yeah.
At night.
Yeah, I'm a late person. Yeah,
Okay.
I watch it late at night usually, but we certainly were known to, tape them in case we wanted to watch something else or we couldn't see it that night or whatever, and we would try to watch it the next time. I mean, there were episodes that we go, yeah, whatever, and we fast forward through or maybe just catch a piece of our favorite comedian or something like that. But yeah, we watched a whole lot of them, and he really did become the Johnny Carson of this generation from the through the 80s and 90s and the 2000s. So
the thing about Dave is that his comedy, his brand of comedy, basically informed every comedian after him. From then on, everybody else, even if they went off in another style, they were riffing on Dave.
Sure.
And he was the major change.
Yeah, that's true.
He was the dude. I
had my husband had the good fortune to hang out there a number of times with the band, and I was able to go to one of the recordings when it was in the old building. I was for a little piece of my life, I was pursuing a career in entertainment management, and I absolutely adored stand-up comedy. And my first and only comedian that I was connected to, we got someone from Letterman to come out and see him in the clubs, and they kind of liked him. They set us up with some tickets. They wanted us to just come and be in the audience and see the show. We never actually got him on, but it was a fun time, and I'll never forget it. And I'll miss the show. I'll miss the show a lot. So I'm sorry for all of you who don't care less or whatever, but I did want to say my piece about Letterman, and
all right, let's
I'll
talk
definitely miss him.
So here's the thing. I would highly recommend checking out the Kennedy Center Honors from I want to say a year and a half ago. They've done like the last week of December. And they honored David Letterman, and right after him, Led Zeppelin, and those are the two to watch. They just the thing is that even if you don't care about David Letterman and you watch that, it's like it totally rocks. It completely explains why David Letterman is who he is and why he changed everything in comedy. And then of course you got to watch the Led Zeppelin one because that's awesome too.
Well, I will say just to one last point on David Letterman, because I think that was the interesting part of there's, everybody talks about him being a sexist, right? Which I don't know if that's, I would never want that to be his legacy, right? Because I do think he did a lot for TV entertainment, and he has influenced a lot of comedians and just actors and entertainers across the board. But it was interesting that he was the first person to give comedians like Sandra Bernhard an opportunity, right? So he actually has done a lot over the last 30 years to give women a platform where they weren't as, I guess, prevalent on some of the other shows back at least 30 years ago. And so I think that's kind of an interesting thing too, is, everybody's going to have, some traits people like and some traits people don't like. And one hopes that they're usually pretty balanced. But
You forgot about Joan Rivers.
Yeah.
So,
she got her break on Letterman, right? Is that right?
No, Johnny Carson.
Oh, Johnny Carson.
Yeah.
No, Francine, tell us about what happened with Joan Rivers.
I'm just saying that women were on late night shows before David Letterman put them on. But there weren't
I'm not saying
a
they
lot
weren't.
of
I'm just saying I felt like he did a lot of work, and I'm only knowing this because of some of the tributes that are going on right now that I wouldn't have remembered that from natural memory because I don't follow his show really closely. I mean, I've caught a couple over the last couple of years, but through the tributes that are going on right now, it actually did a really good summary of just some of the people that were given these types of quirky people, like Sandra Bernhard, right? I mean, you're
Yeah,
right.
right.
I forgot about Joan Rivers, and that's my bad. So I don't know. I think it's interesting.
Yeah, well, I mean, he's certainly. I think the female comedians, loved him just as much as the male comedians did, and I never heard of any bad feelings or any sort of slights or issues going on in that department. So
I think
Hey,
that
hey, guys,
anyone
I
who's on TV for 33 years automatically is seen as an integral part of our popular culture, and
sure.
Yep.
they wind their way into our hearts and minds just because they are there so often.
yeah, except for you,
Except for me, because I really
You're making
didn't
me
care.
choke. Don't do that.
Hallie. What were you saying?
I was just going to say, on our page, I just put up the Jerry Seinfeld's new series, Comedians Having Coffee or whatever,
yeah.
and
Oh yeah,
Uh,
right.
the Letterman issue, the Letterman episode. So
Oh, that
check
was
it
a
out.
great one. If you haven't
You guys
seen
watch that?
check it out. Check it out. It's really fun. I'm glad you put that link up because it's.
Are you
it's
guys
a good,
watching that show?
Yeah, it's terrific.
Do you guys
Yeah,
have
those
empty
other
lives?
guys.
Comedians in cars getting coffee, and Jerry Seinfeld gets. He rents these fabulous, vintage. Sometimes, usually vintage or cars, or European cars or whatever, and some sort of vehicle. And he
match
he
the
goes
comedian.
he sort of matches the personality of the car with the personality of the comedian, and then he goes and he picks them up. Usually, sometimes the
In
car
that
breaks
car.
down in that car.
So
And
it's really good.
it is great. And then they go out and they have coffee and they talk comedy crap.
And they
And
like
these are
Sarah
all
Jessica
episodes.
Parker. They did like an old station wagon from Long Island where she grew up. It was like she's like, this is my mom's car. And Sarah Silverman one is hilarious.
Yeah.
He does. You just got. If you guys haven't seen it, check it out. Have
Yeah.
you guys
These are
watched
all-
it?
And I would also say it was kind of fun watching Dave talk about the Twitter for a long time and try to figure out how to do a tweet. Okay, so farewell to Dave, and we'll talk about him again soon. By the way, I do want to announce that we have a chat that we're going to be using. And it is here at chatcenter.com. Chat.center/G3. It's really, really easy to get on. And what that means is that during our live show recording, we will be able to, all of us on the show will be able to see the chat. And if you come in live and you want to talk to us, ask questions, or just, whatever, have a
The
comment.
chat center
Please
is empty right
Please
now.
do. It's empty right now because this is the first time we really didn't give it much of an announcement. But we'll work on that. And I just want to thank our friend Keith Tier, who's on the Gilmore Gang regularly. He set this up for us, and I'm very grateful. Okay. All right. So from Letterman to what? Do we go to Mad Men, or we want to get in some tech right now?
A little tech.
Tech.
Tech. Okay.
I'm really
Tech what? What
Tech-
happened this week? Anything? No.
yes.
Yes.
Wearable World Congress.
Wearable World Congress. Go for it.
Yes. Okay, Wearable World Congress showed me that wearables are definitely not there yet, but that Reg Snodgrass is an amazingly brave person. He has taken over the Palace of Fine Arts, and it's like the most ridiculous facility on the planet to try to do something with, because it's a cross between an art gallery and a hangar, an airplane hangar. And it's impossible to fill and impossible to warm up, literally and figuratively.
Was it
But
freezing?
What?
Was it really cold in it?
It was freezing, but that wasn't the really important part. The really important part was that he's got an accelerator there, and it was like a demo day for all his accelerator classes.
Got it.
And so that was good. And then it was a conference for wearables and the Internet of Things. And at the same time, the wearables conference was going on, there was something from the city of San Francisco, which I guess is his partner in this whole endeavor. And like, I think they gave him the space or rented it to him for nothing, for very little. But anyway, there was a conference called Internet of Things for Cities. And I didn't get a chance to sit in any of it, but it struck me that Internet of Things is both an opportunity and a real danger for cities, you know, because connecting all this public stuff to the cloud means a whole new level of, you know, regulatory supervision, privacy issues,
surveillance, accountability,
all of that.
Yep.
All of that. And so I was like, wow, what is happening with the Internet of Things for cities? I was really curious. But the most interesting news out of that for me was that ReadWrite, you know, Jolie Odell went back to ReadWrite, and she had quit technology journalism because, well, I guess because she hated it. But she went back, and everyone was like, why did she go back if she quit? And the answer is she's going back because ReadWrite is going to be crowdfunded, and their goal is to be independent tech journalism. And that they announced a partnership with Indiegogo where they're going to have like a ReadWrite fund that's going to try and support this. And I love that business model.
So this is an interesting business
interesting
model.
idea.
Hang on one second. Christy, were you also at the conference?
No, I didn't get a chance to go in person. My husband went, and so I was getting updates real time from him.
I noticed he was there, so that's why I didn't notice if you were there. Okay, so you've heard a little bit, a little more intimately maybe from him. Hallie, you were just about to say something.
I was just following up on what Francine said, which is an interesting idea that it's sort of like a subscriber model where your big subscriber is Indiegogo that's paying to keep you going, right? That's interesting.
No, Indiegogo isn't paying. The crowd is keeping
Well, I mean,
going.
the money is coming through crowdfunding through Indiegogo to keep you afloat.
Okay, so
Well,
let's try to understand what that might look like, because I haven't really heard of this before, of a crowd-funded media piece.
Well, here's the interesting thing. When GigaOM just recently shut down, the first comments I started to see is, why didn't they open up a Kickstarter or Indiegogo account? Because I would have paid to support GigaOM's platform because we love their writing. And I think, you know, online advertising is such a commodity right now. It's hard to get enough eyeballs to pay the bills.
Right.
So to
And if
speak.
you
And
do,
so-
you're a whore. You
But
know,
listen,
Yeah.
Well, wait,
what's
what
the
about isn't Patreon another way?
yes, Patreon. See, that's what I didn't understand. I think they've done an overall partnership with Indiegogo because a lot of their hardware startups are crowdfunded also on Indiegogo. So I think it was like an overall partnership, and ReadWrite is going to start something called the ReadWrite Fund, which is on Indiegogo, but the overall partnership is with Wearable World. And there's another company that partnered with Wearable World that has nothing to do with this, and that is a company called Jabil, which is a very large manufacturing services company, and they're going to help these people scale their manufacturing. So, I mean, this looks like an integrated solution to a large problem. And ReadWrite may or may not be the bleeding edge of it. The large overall partnership in the wearables and IoT space is probably the biggest part, because then Akamai made an announcement yesterday when I wasn't there, saying that they were going to give free content delivery for Wearable World.
So, you know, we've paid for. What's the big difference between a subscription to something and crowdfunding media?
Regularity.
Well, part of it is that in crowdfunding, you're often prepaying for the thing that you are
Right.
doing. So if you did a small donation for a crowd-funded piece of journalism, you probably wouldn't you might get early access to one piece of journalism, but if you paid a larger amount, it would be like prepaying your subscription. And the thing is, a lot of people buy subscriptions after the thing is already going and they can
Yeah.
see the content. And so this is sort of a way to get that up front.
So the idea here is that we would know about a project in advance, some sort of issue or, something, we want to investigate more. No, you're saying
I don't
no.
think so. I'm more want to say I don't know because they didn't announce. All they announced was the Read Write Fund and the fact that they were trying to save their integrity as journalists by crowdfunding the site. And it struck me as, all of these online publications are looking for sustainable business models.
Yeah.
Well,
And-
there also the whole like sustainable journalistic credibility is like over, I think. I mean, that it's very clear that the junk that sells it's got boobs, it's got, beer, it's just lowest common denominator shit. And I don't know how you
Or it's
turn
got
that around.
quizzes.
Nobody does.
It's
Or-
the BuzzFeed model, right?
Yes.
Even
It is.
CNN is modeling
And-
BuzzFeed, and you're like going, I think there is, some concern with the integrity of journalism, which I think is fascinating.
is.
But I do think the crowdfunding opportunity is really interesting. And I kind of point back to, do you guys know who Z Frank is? He was a big
Yeah.
video.
Of
Yeah.
course.
Yeah.
Say, Frank, yeah.
So, like a couple years ago, maybe it's 3 years ago or so, he actually he wanted to do another video show, and he was looking for funding, and I guess either didn't get sponsors or just didn't even try. But he put it out on Kickstarter to say, hey, for those of you who loved my old show, my video show with Z Frank, I want to do another series, but I need your help. And he raised almost $150,000 on Kickstarter that then launched his video program. So, and he wouldn't have done it, if he didn't use crowdfunding and the tools that are out there. And I think now actually he's running the video program at BuzzFeed.
Exactly.
does.
That's
It
where
does.
it went.
But,
I wondered if you were going to go to that place because that's
Yeah,
where
me
he
too.
is now, which kind of makes you go, "Ooh, what's about that?" But anyway,
I listened to Tom Merritt's Tech News Today, now I'm sorry, it used to be called Tech News Today when it was on Twit, but Leo Laporte fired him, and he went to a network of podcasts called the Frog Pants Network, and it's now called the Daily Tech News Show. And it's funded by Patreon, and they have gotten enough subscribers on Patreon, I'm one of them, so that he is now able to have a co-host on there with him, and he's hired Veronica Belmont. So it's possible to use at least Patreon to support this, and he's totally independent. And the No Agenda Show, Dvorak and Curry, they've got a podcast that's 100% subscribers supported. I support them too, and independent. I guess I like this model of journalism. I guess I believe in it,
I just put again another link about Patreon on our G3 page, and they are explaining it. Patreon is empowering a new generation of creators to make a living from their passion and hard work. You get to be a de Medici. I added that. Sorry. In other words, you become a patron of the arts.
Right.
And from what I understand, you tell me, Francine, it's like a crowdfunding specifically for a patron of media, essentially.
Yeah, it's basically a subscription site for, it's a subscription platform for independent media or creators of any kind. And it's, I thought it was pretty cool when it launched, and I guess it's becoming pretty successful because more people than you would think are using it.
Does that include video?
Good question.
Yes,
I think it does.
I think it does. It looks like, yeah.
Yeah.
You mean filmmakers?
No, video,
No,
like
what
this.
we're doing here.
Like, could we support this on Patreon? Yes, we could.
Interesting.
Okay, well, it's
We could.
so it's working. I mean, it's working for some people, and some people really are digging this model. Like, us, buying into and supporting artists or writers in a more intimate and independent way.
But what that means too, to me, that means more of the death of what we call affectionately MSM, mainstream media, because you're going again to very segmented audiences and very segmented content. It's a pretty crazy time. And
I think it's the end of advertising as a business model. Yesterday, Spotify announced that it was adding video and fitness because there were no economics in streaming music. I thought that was fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mary,
just
you were
goes to, like,
raising your
Jay-Z's
hand.
title
Were you
program.
just about to say something, or were you gesticulating for some other reason? You're muted. You're muted. No, Mary, no sound.
I was thinking about how I want to say around 2004 or 5, there were a couple of journalists who went to Iraq who crowdfunded their trips and raised, I think one of them raised like 30,000, another one raised like 100,000, that sort of thing. And basically it was, citizen journalism. And I'm not sure that at that time we called it crowdfunding. I mean, I think it was just like citizen journalism, everybody donate, this guy's going to Iraq, blah, blah, blah. And, I think it's been around. It's really challenging because the old media model is, the thing where, the car insert on the Sunday paper, really isn't paying for the celebrity page because that's covered by the ads on that page. It's paying for the investigative journalism, like going to Iraq, right? But now that we have online journalism where, the car advertiser wants to see the metrics on their ads and they want to put their ad right next to an ad on, I don't know, buying a car, the investigative journalism never gets underwritten. And so we have this huge problem where, and there's just been this bloodletting of really good journalists who are no longer can work in the field really, or can't really support themselves because we're not, and the whole democracy suffers. And of course, as that has become a problem, it's all happened at the same time as, large corporations are using the Dutch sandwich to avoid paying taxes and are paying off, we've got massive campaign funding. And so the three together, the massive campaign funding, the lack of journalism funding, and the lack of paying taxes. I mean, our democracy is in serious jeopardy. And here we are, and I'm all for Read Write Web doing this. I think GigaOM should have done it, but we really have a huge issue. It's everything from going to the local school board meeting and getting a reporter there to write down what happens, to the Iraq War, and or right now on the campaign trail you've got Jeb Bush saying that, oops, it was just a little mistake going into Iraq, but at least Saddam's out. And it's like, no, wait a minute, that was completely lied and manufactured. But there's but how many journalists can afford to really skeptically analyze what the Republican candidates are saying right now about the Iraq War? Well, not that many, because it costs a lot of money. So
and it's really
we get back to this
interesting
crowdfunding thing, and it's like, I don't think there's enough crowdfunding to really cover what we need to cover. I don't think it covers the school board, and I don't think it covers Iraq or any
David
big
Cohn
stuff.
David Cohn tried to start a sort of crowdfunding site for investigative journalism called Spot.us. And it was pretty good for the San Francisco area for a while, and he got some things funded, but it never really took off. And you're right, Mary, I don't think there is enough crowdfunding. And it's really ironic because all of these journalists who work for big media outlets cannot say things. This is going to lead me down a real rabbit hole to, Seymour Hersh and why everybody felt like they had to bash him. And then all the surveillance. Mary, this is your part of the...
Yeah, I mean, there's all kinds of bad things that can happen. You can start, not funding all sorts of things that need to be funded. Like, what if the funding for Social Security disappeared, and and you had no journalist to cover why, right? What if basically, yeah, the surveillance thing. I mean, it took a huge amount of work to deconstruct the documents and figure out which documents to publicly release that Snowden let out 2 years ago. They wanted to be very responsible. That takes time. Then you have to analyze the documents and explain to people why one or another document matters for one or another reasons. That takes time. I mean, it's very expensive to do good journalism. It costs, and the journalists aren't making a lot of money. I mean, it's not like they're all making bank. It's just expensive because it's time consuming, and
advertising is a bad model. Advertising is a very bad model for it.
Yeah,
Well,
it really is.
I'd say the irony of advertising was it was a good model when advertisers had no idea whether they were reaching an audience. That was print media and newspapers, and they were paying a lot. Reporters were making a lot of money. Newspapers were in business. Now, ironic, now, we can tell advertisers, these people looked at this person clicked on it, this person shared it, and no one wants to pay for that. So
no, it's happened? Like everyone goes, holy shit, none of this worked.
Right.
And now it's like we blew the cover off it.
Yep. And they can't figure out why nobody wants to pay for mobile advertising. And they can tell you so much. My husband used to work in it. We were talking about it. How often, I said, we just end up, our phones look like they're using all this data. I'm like, what is happening with this phone when I'm not even using certain apps for days and days? And he's like, that's always sending messages of this ad showed when you clicked this. And it's sending a lot of information places that you really don't want to know about. Like, don't even ask. Because, I'm like, what could be happening? I'm not even listening to music or video or whatever, but all this data is happening, and it's telling the servers this ad was served up at this time, and it was on this page, and da 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 da. So, your phone is busy working for mobile advertising, whether
Not really, because I mean, I'm in Zito's offices, so this is a hard conversation for me to have. But
well, I don't know what they do. What do they do?
They serve ads.
Oh my goodness.
Real simple. They serve ads. And one of the problems that they see, of course, is that if they don't serve ads, not only do they go out of business, but in the larger scheme of things, most content disappears because we're used to having our content free. And as you say, Mary, there won't be enough crowdfunding.
Yeah.
Well, so it's a conundrum. It is a real conundrum. And then the wireless carriers are kind of they're experimenting with the idea of entirely mobile ad blocking because they're kind of afraid of how their users are going to feel.
Mm-hmm. I don't know, somehow, and forgive me for doing this, but I almost think that this links a little bit to what Hallie's business is, new business is. And, this more experiential kind of using products, getting your hands on something, putting your advertising dollars into actually getting people to look and feel and see things and then talk about them in social media, right?
I thought you were going to just put my business out of business on one show.
Oh.
I thought, thanks.
Dear God, I hope I didn't do that.
Here. But what you are saying, and I do believe, is can you measure legitimate engagement? If somebody grabs the product and goes, man, I love this thing, that's a little different from, did someone serve the ad at 17, 19, and and how many impressions, so it is my interest, and it is what my business is about a bit. And actually, I may have a new client all 20 days into this business, 10 of which I can't walk. I think not walking might be a feature.
It's
not a bug.
It's key.
It allows you to focus.
It does. Oh, my focus. But anyway, there's a new thing coming out it's bottled. sangria that you keep in the fridge like a bottle of wine. But it's got really beautiful blood orange juice, and it's got how do you say it? Acai berry, whatever. No, it's got really healthy organic juices and red wine, and it's launching here in a company that does some good stuff, and I may be doing some testing.
And we're going to get to drink this during our show.
Listen, girlfriends, you'll love this stuff. It looks pretty great. And for me, it just came out of the blue because I don't know you guys get this, but this is based in Boston. It's 90 Plus is the company, which it on their label has a 90 plus, and it's. Do you know about this? It's a fairly new company. Even in 90 Plus in wine jargon is the Robert Parker scale. That means a pretty damn good
like
wine.
The wine
okay.
Spectator.
So
from the
it's
Wine
not just
Spectator
Robert Parker,
magazine,
it's Wine Spectator.
So it's like
also
an A minus, A plus kind of rating. So here's what these guys did. They figured out this business where they buy remainder batches of really good shit, send their 90 plus labels to the vineyard that did the Sauvignon Blanc and had extra and doesn't know what to do with it, or the Malbec. And those guys at that distributed set of vineyards paste that on there and then ship the wine with that new brand. And every time I buy 90 plus, it's great shit. It's like really excellent remainders of a wide range.
That's
Okay,
their
so
marketing
wait a minute.
tagline now. It's great
Hallie
shit.
is shilling for wine.
Wait,
I'm
I
shilling
wanted
for
to
an
hear that
ad
again.
server.
Christy, hang on 1 second, Francine. Christy?
I said they just got their marketing campaign from Hallie. It's like their new
It's great
tagline is
shit.
"It's great shit."
There you go.
But you go into a wine store and you're going to buy something. You're like, it's got a picture of a zebra on it. This one's got a picture of a duck. This guy has a fat bastard. And
I don't buy any pictures with any I don't buy any wine with any anthropomorphic symbols on it. No way. Like that's
right.
just bad
well,
wine.
You guys, you're California. You know about wine, but the
I
rest
don't buy California wine. It sucks. It's
I don't
bad
buy
and
California
it's overpriced.
wine.
I do not buy it. Absolutely no,
What?
no,
You
no.
don't buy
Oh.
I grew up on the East Coast. I buy European wine.
I
Yes.
do. I mean,
I thought you
we
were going to
could
say
drink,
Long
like-
Island wine, Francine, and I was going to have a talking to you.
No way.
But anyway, I'm gonna put a picture
Upstate
of
New
this.
York wine.
I'm gonna put a picture of this new sangria. It's called Mija Sangria.
Mija.
Yes.
Oh.
And I'll put it on the page. You guys will look at it. But anyway, it's not established yet. I've just been starting to talk about it. We'll see what happens. But I think it seems like a great idea, and I certainly like it the way it looks. It looks
sounds
delicious.
great.
So,
Very cool.
wait a minute. But we're back to advertising, which is, you want engagement. You want to know somebody doesn't just kind of like it. They love this thing. You want people to embrace the products and be, hello,
Right, you want to
passionate
generate
about it.
advocates and ambassadors around the world that will talk about your product without you even having to ask them. So, I mean, I think that's every brand's dream. Right?
Let's call it. We're talking beverage. Wet dream. I mean,
Yeah,
Okay.
there you go.
Okay, so
It's like
I put-
Apple. It's like Apple has millions of advocates and ambassadors because we will always I actually just finally upgraded
Wait
to
a
the
minute.
6. And honestly, I went kicking and screaming, but I finally got to the point going, damn, I got tired of my IT department telling me my screen was too small on my 5. So,
Yeah.
you know, but it's I talk about it, and it's I actually really do love Apple products because they're pretty and they're functional and they do what I need them to do. And I'm an ambassador whether I really intend to be or not. There's
Right, and
My
Francine
watch
Francine-
just told me
I-
to stand.
I just wanted
Speaking
to
of
let you
Apple
know that
ambassadors.
Francine's watch just told her to stand up, so she's
I was like, what?
and
Well-
she looks again like this is the lower part of Christy. I think you guys need to color coordinate your outfits next time. So
It's like those cards, like in.
Wait, there it is.
Hold on.
There it is.
Francine
It's
has to
perfect
stand
now.
for a whole minute because her
Okay.
watch is telling her so.
My watch told me I have to
She's
stand.
just trying to terrorize me because I can't even stand up. Thanks. So, anyway, go look at the picture of the Mija. It's on our page, and I think it just sounds like an interesting idea to know the juice you got is fresh. Whenever I've had sangria, I don't know what the heck they're throwing in there, and they just do some really interesting stuff. So
Me, I love some sangria.
I know I love it.
Please
And
send some our way.
Wow.
If you can.
Nice.
I'll
would
do
like
I'll
that.
put their link. You can actually also buy it right off their
Okay, we'll
page.
buy it.
We finally, in Massachusetts, they finally changed the law. We can ship wine in and out or whatever. I think we couldn't before. I feel like
You couldn't
we're
even
from.
buy it on a Sunday.
I'm
Yeah,
telling you,
I mean, that's how
Before.
pathetic we are. It's
I'm
like-
going to be drinking something this weekend because, man, I had a rough week this week. Oh, boy.
Oh, speaking
I
of
had
rough
two
weeks,
family members sick at different times with stomach flu. I had a daughter who was packing up a whole apartment when she's got a lot of crap and was moving across country, and we were cleaning that out, and her dogs were here and they were fighting, and thank God not really fighting with my dogs, and people sleeping on the couch and people throwing up. It was
not good.
it was so
my God.
awful. It was
Sounds
so
like
awful.
a good
And it's
Saturday night party to
What
me.
was it? Was it
at
fucked?
least they weren't throwing up on the couch.
Yes. Yes.
Okay,
But
I have a top 10
that was a
list of
long
why
way of
the
saying
G3 show
I
rocks.
need a little break this weekend. So
Well,
wine
I
is
got it
definitely
for
in
you.
order.
I'm putting it on the page. Here's the link to be able to buy the stuff.
Thank you, Miss Hallie. And we should mention that our Facebook page, let's see if we can find a link to our Facebook page, is right there, facebook.com/G3
Alex
show. If you
DeSoto
haven't found
says
us already on
that
the
90 Plus's
Facebook,
slogan
please
should
find us
be-
there.
Should be Saturday night taste, Tuesday night price. He said it sounds like $2 Chuck.
Okay.
It's not $2, but it's really, you can almost be sure when you get it, it's going to be great stuff. It's really something.
Oh my God. Alex said he was waiting for my Apple Watch to tell me to stand up, and it did.
Somebody's watching.
That's a sketch. I thought I was in,
See?
private.
You
Yeah.
see? All right.
There's
So,
no privacy
You guys,
anymore.
I have a top 10 list of why the G3 show rocks in honor of David Letterman.
Ah,
Oh, go. Why?
perfect. Okay.
All right, tell me when you're ready to hear it.
Number
Oh, I
10.
gotta
Now
hear
or later?
this.
Number 10. I'll give you a drum roll.
Okay, number 10. Francine talks injections with impunity. Number 9. Hallie will have David
Hey, I know
Letterman
what that's
vitriol
about.
forever.
Wait. Can we back up? Number 9.
Hallie will have David Letterman vitriol forever.
Oh, yay.
Number 8. Tina's birthday hat will never burn out.
Yeah.
Number 7. Christy will show us our ancestries even after we're dead.
Yes.
Yay.
6. Mary has to do something goofy after those workouts.
Yeah.
Number 5. Denise still has a closet full of hats.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Number 4.
Yes.
Hallie still
Yep.
has a closet full of sunglasses.
Yes.
Number 3.
Yes. Here they are.
Steve Gilmore is an awesome tech.
Support.
Number 3.
Sound boy.
Number 2. Everyone gets to swear on every show.
Yeah.
And number 1. We have to have women's take on tech. Tech.
Yay.
Yay!
Excellent.
Okay, so
I'm going to award the flowers somebody sent me. Here you go, Mary. Thank you. This is
And-
an award for the top 10 list. Awesome.
Very
Yay!
nice.
I have a question for Christy. You put this thing in the show rundown about Brillo software for the Internet of Things. Are you old enough to remember when Brillo was actually a scouring pad? I want to know if
absolutely, the little like metal kind of.
yeah, those. So
Yeah.
did Google buy the name, or does the brand not exist anymore?
Oh,
I think the brand exists, doesn't it?
it exists, yeah.
Brillo?
I don't know. I mean, I haven't bought it in forever, but
Oh, I
it
think
used to
it's
be
still
the
around.
thing my
The
mother
Brillo
relied
pad?
on.
Francine apparently doesn't watch TV and doesn't clean her pans for a long,
Yeah.
long time.
Pads, sure.
Oh, I
Brillo.com
totally don't
still
clean.
responds. So.
You can get 18 on Amazon, and they only cost $7.22.
Thank you. That's good
What?
to know. But what is
$7.22 for 18 Brillo pads?
Yeah.
but what
What a
is
ripoff.
Brillo going to do for the Internet of Things?
Ah.
I don't know why you brought up Brillo. I'm confused.
Because Christy put it in the topics and show ideas.
Ah.
They're creating a new platform that they're nicknaming Brillo, which is why Francine called it out. And the article, unfortunately, I don't have a subscription to this place, so I just got like the summary, right? But they're trying to extend software into a lot of the smartphones to allow smaller, it says low power devices to connect to the web, right? So it's like they want to use this platform to help your phone connect to your fridge or your iPod or your iPad to connect to your stereo system or your heating or whatever that might be. And so like there's Nest, there's all these different things that are going to come into play, but how they got that name and if they're actually, that's going to be what they're using will be interesting because I got to imagine Brillo Pad's trademarked and
yeah, I bet you they're doing Brillo because Brillo has 2 L's.
No, it
this
says
is Brillo.
The information says 2 L's. I have a subscription to the information. So, of course, I just subscribe to things. But I subscribe to the information, and I actually read the article. And I don't know if I'm really right about this, but I think they want to be sort of the hub for the Internet of Things, which right now there's about 3 different connecting, platforms that power the Internet of Things, and so nothing talks to anything else yet. There's Zigbee and there's Z-Wave, and and there's something else. So,
I think it's interesting play because Google tried to do that with our personal identities. And that was Google Plus, right?
Yeah.
So they were trying to launch Google Plus to start tying in all of your identities across the web and then give you this platform to publish out. So it's interesting that they're not going to try to do that with the Internet of Things because it didn't work so well on the personal side of the house. But maybe they'll have better experience or better success with regards to the enterprise and the web as a whole.
Well, I'm just curious about whether they think they can provide the security and if that's why they're doing it, or because again, once you get into the Internet of Things, the scary thing that I feel about the Internet of Things is that all these devices can talk to each other and suddenly there won't be a power grid.
And that's a cue for Mary.
Yeah, power grid or privacy?
Both.
Well, there is a power issue, I have to say. I mean, there's, obviously if your refrigerator is, I don't know, talking to the internet, to your Wi-Fi, both of those are plugged in. But you're right. I mean, it will use a lot more power. Of course, everyone could get solar and maybe that would all get mitigated. But there's also the privacy issue. Hallie posted this Pew Center link on our G3 thing, Americans' Attitudes About Privacy, Security, and Surveillance, which I would highly recommend reading. Basically, the conclusion, and I found this in my own research, is that literally in the 90th percentile and above, people are very concerned about keeping their data private, having control over it. Privacy for most people means personal data control. And the idea that my refrigerator would just be leaking data about me the way that my phone right now currently does, this just sends data everywhere. It doesn't ask me at all. It's insane.
I think these surveys, and the research that's being done on privacy, I mean, sure, people say they're really, really concerned about it. And what do they do about their concerns? Almost
there's
nothing.
Not that much you can do. This is the problem. We have this thing called the illusion of control, which people engage in. So I did some research asking people, what do you do? And one of the things we asked them was, do you use like a fake email address or a spam email address that you only use when you want to, give it away to somebody that's demanding your email address and you don't want to give them your regular address? Well, the problem is because of the cookies on your machine and the beacons and stuff, they actually can link together that bad email address with your other email addresses. And so it's an illusion of control, and yet people do it. So we asked people, how many of you, in this survey of 1,800 people that was spread across the country, we specifically didn't survey tech centers, and over like 92% of the people were regularly on a weekly basis giving a bad email address, giving fake phone numbers. They were doing all these things because there is nothing else to do.
But
There's
they're doing
nothing
all
to
these,
do.
but they're doing all these things that do absolutely nothing or
But
next to nothing.
it's their attempt. In other words, they're taking action. And the other thing I would say is that it does help somewhat until Facebook resets their privacy controls, which is like every 9 months. But Facebook, you can go into Facebook, and the vast majority of users have adjusted their settings. But then Facebook goes in and changes them, and then you have to go back and reset and lock things down again. But
That's really annoying.
The fact that people take that action. So the old conventional wisdom was that it was 80-20. The only 20% of the users would take action in some sort of a system, and the 80% would ignore it and go with the default. And now around privacy issues, we're seeing this huge number of people take some kind of an action, even if it's an illusion of control. Frankly, I think the Facebook stuff is an illusion of control too.
Well, and I also think that a lot of people don't even bother. There's a lot of things that people don't use two-factor authentication, for instance. I mean, I don't, these surveys are just what people say. They are not really what people do. You know what I mean?
But you can look at the numbers of Facebook, and Facebook publishes what percentages of people. It's like in the 70s and 80% of people who've adjusted their privacy settings at one time or another.
Christy, I would imagine that in the ancestry and DNA world that you live in, that people are very concerned about privacy.
Without a doubt, right? And I think it's an interesting situation to be in as, both a participant of providing data on the web and then also a recipient of some of that data, right? And I think it's true. I think everybody I know, but I'm obviously, my demographic is a little more aware of protecting and laying down your privacy rights. But I think with regards to, DNA and or whether it's just, my cookie history of what I shop for on the web or something like that too, I think it's interesting because companies are going to do everything they possibly can. I believe they have good intent to protect their web, but just like credit cards, just like anything else, everything could, not everything. Things are potentially hackable, right? Things are potentially leakable, and it's going to be an interesting thing over the next couple of years. And it is something we talk about all the time inside of Ancestry. I unfortunately can't share too much about it, but it's security and privacy is our number one concern with regards to, somebody's DNA data, because there's no better part of you than your DNA. And it's something that we sit on top of really hard.
It would seem to me that the only thing people can really, really do is abstinence.
And we know that that's been so popular.
No credit cards,
no
anything, no internet.
My husband is no social media, no nothing.
Yeah.
The thing is that the social media is the least of it. If you have a Nest, it's going to be collecting ambient information. I just don't want to get one because I just don't want the data collection. My house is private. This is my private space. And so, I think there is a way where abstinence.
If our data would be anonymized, and we had talked about this a lot years ago, then maybe the concern isn't so great. The data would be collected, that we would understand that it's being used to provide, better services, but where it's being collected from and it being, intimately connected with our name, our social security number, whatever, that it wouldn't be that. But we haven't heard.
That's not to any advertising or any commercial entity's advantage, frankly.
As a consumer though, I actually want access to some of that data, and I'll personalize it a bit for the DNA side of the house, right? I don't mind giving a company my DNA if I'm getting something back in return, but I definitely want assurances that company is going to do everything in their power to protect the data that they're storing on their servers. And then also I do want to know what that company is doing with my data. And, some of them will be able to anonymize it to run research. It's what we do here at Ancestry. My name is never associated with my DNA file as the researchers are working with it, because we take that privacy we really just protect that. But I do, as a consumer, want access to that too. So I think we're going to see a trend, if not now, I mean, definitely down the road, of us being willing to give more if we're getting more. But then also we do want, as Mary said several times, of better controls over what they actually can do with that data and who's actually going to have access to it at any given time.
Not been some criticism that Ancestry's bought some of the sites that were free and now is only giving access to people about their ancestors at a cost. And that's the thing when I read it. We love you here.
No. And actually, I mean, I can't get into too much of that, but it's actually two different databases. So just to clear that point too, and that's where journalism comes into play, because there were some incorrect stories being shared by brands and journalists that I actually really trust and respect. But there was an open public database that people participated in, and Ancestry brought the data and the research points around that. And then we have a separate company, which is the Ancestry DNA, and you can share that publicly or not, but that's what you're paying for. So the original one, which is Sorensen, was mostly a research arm and was never meant to be sold back to anybody else or anything like this. We have a different product that is paid. I didn't explain that probably as well as I could have, but they're actually two different databases, two different situations, and while we use the research for one to help frame the data that we're sharing on the other, it's the one that you're paying for is a separate product.
That's the best explanation I've heard.
I'm from the Robert Scoble School of Privacy, meaning I don't try to get a lot of privacy. There's two things that I figure I really don't want. I don't want anyone emptying out my bank account, and I don't want anybody abridging my freedoms, my free speech or something like that. Other than that, I really don't care about my privacy. So my bank already uses two-factor authentication, and that's about the best we can do. Facebook, I really don't care, because it's in my power to either put information on there or take it off. And my healthcare information I don't care about since Obamacare, because no one can refuse me insurance. So maybe if I were applying for a job, I'd have a slightly different view. But right now, the thing that bothers me the most is the government spying, because the government can abridge your freedoms. And what corporations do with my data is so much less important than what the government does with it.
But you don't think
the government can also kill you, and it's legal, right?
Okay, well, that too, right, exactly.
So, I mean, here's the thing. Do you care if your insurance rates go up through Obamacare because the insurance company sees some data about you? Maybe you're friends with someone who drinks, like Hallie, who just posted that wine.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, I think the word privacy, we sometimes have a narrow focus on. It's not so good to have a narrow focus. And if I were my new company was selling insurance and I could see all this data about that you had a hip replacement and you had this and you had that and your high blood pressure, I'm not going to, actuarials used to have to guess at this stuff now.
No, the insurance companies have had your data forever. The insurance companies and these industrial databases,
but they haven't had the big data across to look at a whole sample and make decisions, and that's pretty useful.
Hallie, they had the big data to look across. They would get medical data, but it wasn't specific to people, right? Mm-hmm. What they would do is, let's say you went to apply for life insurance. They would come and take a blood test. They would do a medical history, a self-attestation. They might ask your doctor for your records, and then they would write you the policy, and then the rate was set on whatever was based on those actuarial data tables about how often do people die of certain things and whatever. The difference is now, and insurance companies say this, they put it in their press releases to their investors. Hey, we're looking at everybody's Facebook profiles, and if they're friends with people who have bad credit or drink a lot or
smoke,
smoke, are behaving poorly in ways that we would consider high risk, we will raise that person's rates, because just being around those other people, we think it's a problem. So even if you don't engage in that behavior, the fact that you might have friends that do is, I mean, they're pretty flat out about it. Now, because they have access to social data, that's the difference. That's the big data that they didn't have before.
That's
So I am
good.
mentoring a medical cannabis company, and I put all their stuff on my social streams because I find it fascinating. I'm going to have repercussions from this.
Could be. They
You know
think
what?
you're a stoner.
Bring them
It's-
on. Bring them on. I want to hear what they say.
For the consumer, it all at this point I think relates to risk versus reward. And if the consumer feels that the risk is less than the reward that they get, they're going to go for it. And until our privacy gets trashed enough where people get really, really concerned, then they'll start making some changes. But
well, here's the
didn't
other
used to have
problem.
privacy.
Is that we are actually extremely privileged in many ways. We're educated. We sit
Who's
in the
we?
upper
We
echelons
who?
of social strata.
who is we?
We
Asked
who?
Hallie.
We, all 5 of us,
Oh, okay.
we are
Us.
very privileged people.
I thought you meant
Right.
all Americans or
No,
all
no.
somebody.
We, this group, the
Right.
5 of us, we're very privileged people. And for various reasons, we can put stuff on our Facebook feed that talks about medical marijuana, and there's probably very little repercussion. But most people cannot do that. They would get fired. Imagine if you worked at Walmart and you put that on your feed. You'd get fired. I mean, most people do not have the privilege that we have. So you can be a Robert Scoble data exhibitionist, and I'm all for it. Do it. If you want to do it, it's great. I'm all, I think it's terrific. But recognize that most people don't have the privilege to behave like Robert Scoble behaves and take 2 months off to travel around the country because he gets addicted to alcohol and then come back and keep doing what he does. I mean, he's very, very privileged. And I think it's awesome what he did. I'm very supportive of it. But most people do not have that opportunity.
Well,
They just couldn't do
let me
it.
ask you another question. I have a roommate. I live with a guy who's a conspiracy theorist, and he says he thinks he's going to have to drive to California to get his teeth filled because he's worried about people depositing, tracking devices in his teeth. And I
Yeah, well, it
thought
could happen here too if it can happen.
I thought he was nuts.
Right.
But then I heard that Osama bin Laden told his wife to take the fillings out of her teeth before she came to visit him.
Oh, and
So-
he's not crazy.
So I guess
Okay.
my comment to you, my comment to you is, where does this all stop? I,
Well,
for one,
I think it could
that no
definitely
one has
stop
the
at the
trouble
teeth.
to go through enough of this data to make a difference.
Or better
It's-
question, where does this show go off the rails? Just
Well,
at the last moment.
I've got to put a bag of peas on my knees, so I got to go.
It's
Peas on the knees.
it's time for peas and knees. And I did want to say we heard this week that our friend at TechCrunch, Alexia Totsis, the co-editor there, is leaving TechCrunch soon, or if not already, to finish up her MBA at Stanford. So congratulations on that decision. I'm sure it was a hard one, but I think that there's lots of great things for her in her future, and maybe we can get Alexia on soon to talk about her decision. Okay, ladies.
I would love that.
Yeah, I would love it too. Alexia, we would love that. If you're listening, please come on. Okay. Any last thoughts? Anything that's burning that we have to deal with? No.
I think I got to get that sangria to you.
I gotta get that sangria fast. Just
right
like
away.
mainline it somehow. Okay.
I don't think wine can be delivered to me in Arizona.
No,
That's not
because
good.
I don't
you live in
think so.
Arizona.
Why don't you
Yeah.
guys all come out here and see the Cape Cod? Have a Cape Cod weekend. Come on.
Ooh,
sounds
Oh, I'll
Great.
be there this summer.
that sounds like
Ah,
fun. Okay.
Good. Come
I
and
think
visit.
we We do need to have some sort of ladies G3 event, vacation, something special. So let's think about that. Okay.
That would be fun. I did a thing yesterday that was a chat about Visit Massachusetts, and I'm like, hey, this sounds good. I'm like, I'm convinced.
I'm convinced. Okay.
But like, I already live here.
Okay. So yeah, let's wrap it up, ladies. Thank you so much, Christy Wells, Hallie Suit Tucker, Francine Hardaway, Mary Hodder. Thank you so much for being here.
And the one brave man in the chat room.
And the one brave man in the chat room, one of our loyal watchers, Alex. Thank you for being here, and we'll build that chat. I'm sure it's great to have a place to call our own right now. And I'd like to thank, as a matter of fact, as I go into my thank yous, let me thank Keith Tier from Gilmore Gang once again for putting that together for us. It was very nice and generous of you. Thank you to Ustream. We stream live and record. Is that what I'm supposed to say? Stream live, record G3. And oh goodness, the gardeners have gotten here. Okay. That means they're going to make a lot of noise right out there. And thank you to New Tech. Their TriCaster is fabulous. They know I love them. Next week we will we'll be back next week, I think Thursday. And oops, did we lose Mary just at the last second?
She's had it with us.
Did she have to go somewhere, or
she's got enough of us?
She's afraid we're going to share her information.
No.
Exactly.
Is she back?
She's out to get her teeth removed, her fillings.
Oh goodness. I don't know what happened. Okay. Well, we may have lost Mary at the last second.
I can hear you guys.
You can hear us. We can't see you anymore.
I don't have a video thing to turn on, so okay. I'm sorry.
All right. Thank you again, Mary, for being here. Thank you all, and let's just get our logo together, and we'll say bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.